Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Lenny Izzo coming to you in the ongoing series of Getting to the Point. I will do a follow-up session. It's actually an ongoing theme that I'm working with right now. What I'm looking to do is to really demystify energy medicine in the 21st century based on my experience of 35 years working with energy medicine internally and externally. And I'm specifically making this video to help parents understand, and it's not just for parents, it's not just for parents of children, and my focus is in this video to assist parents in understanding how your intercession with your child's health from a treatment-based model to a healing-based model can change their future dramatically, incredibly dramatically. It'll just put them on a completely different course. This video has been prompted by the initiation of a program at Santa Vita Health and Healing Center just off of Rufus Square, just off of Union Square in Manhattan. Tomorrow night we're doing a teleconference, and I'll probably mention some of the material that I'm going to talk about here. I see this in at least 2 videos. I want to outline what is part of the present-day crisis that most parents are not aware of, and how energy medicine, and particularly the imago, can intercede as a lens looking through the energetic makeup of your child. And again, anything I say applies to an adult as well. It's not just for children. My focus, however, going forward is honing in on a children's program, developing it and bringing it out through Santa Vita. And you can always check that at santavita.org. The initiation of that program is to really heal today the leadership of our world. And the leadership of our world is not the people who are in leadership now. Healing our children, not treating them, healing the issues of our children today. And they are many, and they are complex, and they are real, and they are not clearly understood in my point of view. From autism to the issue of vaccinations to the autoimmunity epidemic that our kids face as well as adults, to the obesity issue, to the nutritional deficiency issue, to the iatrogenic issue, iatrogenic meaning treatment caused, treatment being pharmaceuticals, the downside effect of pharmaceuticals, and that's not to say there is not a positive effect that can come from drug intervention, and that needs to be weighed by a conscious and aware parent. And right now we are in a drug-abused environment, pharmacologically speaking. As I always say, don't believe me, just look at the information yourself. So there's another way, not necessarily alternative, complementary. And the complementary way is the natural way. And when more parents of children, and it is the child that is the one that will benefit from the effects of natural health care, or not benefit from being exposed to natural health care during the developmental stages. And that's what I want to talk about with you for the next few minutes. I got to see what I'm going to present to you from almost 35 years in practice, and right from the beginning I always respected that the story of the individual tells me more than the numbers on a blood test, or the objective findings that we see in a clinical setting. Those are important. Hear me as to what I'm really saying. I'm not discarding the importance of good objectivity as a clinician. However, and the real importance is in that person's story. And in that story are all the ingredients. Once you go into it and understand it from a biological development point of view, from a psychological development point of view, from an emotional development point of view, from a neurochemical point of view, from an immune system development point of view, from a soul emergence point of view. In my evaluation, believe it or not, I do include all of those dimensions. I respect them all, I'm aware of them all, and I include them all. And I look to focus the primary direction of care, which is some treatment, and primarily it is a process to not just treat the symptoms, more specifically to heal, transform, and change the underlying condition. Until we go there with our children, if we just take a conventional point of view, just through antibiotics alone, just through drug intervention alone, and I'm not talking about getting a child out of an immediate crisis. I'm talking about getting the crisis out of the child. And that's a whole different process. So here's what I discovered working with adults. And always my practice included a third of my practice, 20% of my practice through the years, especially when I was practicing full-time 6 days a week back in the 90s. My practice always included a very healthy population of kids. You know, there was always children from newborns to adolescents, and I love taking care of children because I knew that I was changing the course of their future once their parents came into agreement with me. When I have a child come in to see me, I'm working with that child. However, I'm primarily working with the parents. And if the parents are not willing to work with me, you think that child's going to work with me? Is he or she going to drive themselves here? He or she going to make those changes? No. Who's in control of a child's health? Besides their inherent nature, it is the guardianship. And that's why I'm making these series of educational videos, to speak to the guardianship. So this is what I found. This is what I discovered. Individuals who were coming to me in the third, fourth, fifth, sixth decade of life and on upward, the issues that I would find with them in their present state of crisis, whatever it is, would always, not sometimes, but would always be related back to their developmental stages. This gets very specific. And it was when, in the early 90s, that I opened myself up to going outside of even the box I was in as a nutritionalist, and began to explore homeopathy and teach and learn homeopathy, and to learn not just classic homeopathy, but 21st century homeopathy, and learn from various significant teachers, you know, around the world, either directly or just through the internet. Today, you can be connected to any teacher and any teaching and school of thought that you want to, and it's putting it all together in a cohesive package that makes the difference. So what I discovered was, just like the rings of a tree, if we can accept, and we do, that you could look into the trunk of any tree and look at the consistency of the development of that tree through that ring, and that ring represents that year of that tree's life, and then each ring will show you a picture of how that tree is growing. And what you can also see, this is a great analogy, a very effective analogy, because it shows you where and when that tree would be exposed to some kind of trauma, insult, something that disrupt the normal developmental pattern of the tree. And so this dynamic is directly going on within us as human beings. And because of a child's vulnerability to the environment, and that's a chemical environment, that is a psychological environment, emotional environment, and even spiritual or a lack of spiritual environmental influence. All of those factors will influence and be a direct causative force in the development or the lack of clear development of a child or of a human being. Now today I just want to stay on the biological, the physical, the chemical, the immune nature of our children, and what we can do in energy medicine is, oops, let me get energy medicine up there. As you know, if you've been watching these videos, sometimes I misspell. Energy medicine is we can read that those developmental stages, not just physically, but we can read the information stored within an individual's energy field, and an individual's energy field develops and contains and sustains and maintains the memory of everything that has happened in that person's life. Pretty amazing, isn't it? I'll say it again. The energy field, which is part of the human body, you cannot separate the field from the form. You can't do it. You can't separate the particle from the frequency. You can't do it. Quantum reality helps us understand this. Quantum physics helps us understand this. So the field, the energy field, is a direct reflection of the form. And any imprint or memory, insult in particular, disturbance in particular, pharmaceutical in particular, will have an impact on the form as well as an impact on the field. And that impact can be more easily accessed through an energy medicine lens. What I use today is I use two very specific technologies. The sensitive imago through bioresonance technology, which I talk about in some of my other videos, gives people an understanding of how you can look through an energetic lens and gather much more information. Is it all I rely on? No, I don't rely just strictly on that. I rely on all my tools for assessing what's going on. And it's a primary one because it gives me the most specific information. Our children live in an energetic matrix. Their own, the parents, the home, the environment. And as a child can grow energetically and that energy field be clear and that chemical field be clear, the less insults we provide to the core pattern, the clearer their development. So how does this work? Here's what I've found, and I'll talk more about this in the next two videos, but I just want to introduce this. The sensitive imago reads the energy pattern of the present as it relates to the past. What I found in my years of practice, and other energy and other functional medicine docs understand what I'm about to say, is, I'll give you an example. The present is always a direct representation of the past. And if there is a pattern that's just not changing, constant ear infections, constant bronchial infections, chronic inflammatory issues, even at young ages, neurobiological issues, chronic gut issues, asthma, ADD. Look at all the childhood ailments that we're experiencing. You will find that the past of that child contains the causative factors that have led the child to that issue. And if we just treat the symptoms and ignore the past, we're just setting our child up for the next crisis. And this is why you will see, or you might be experiencing, and I have seen, the adult that comes to see me with rheumatoid arthritis. Now there's a chronic pattern there, with chronic bronchial asthma, with some kind of significant food allergy, with some kind of neurodegenerative issue, with some kind of autoimmune issue that just is epidemic. What I will find is the insults that have led to this crisis are directly related to a whole host of smaller crises that have led to now the larger one. And the pattern that started way back when with maybe ear infections at 1 year old, 2 years old, that weren't really ear infections but was more of a food sensitivity or an irritation that would be seen in the middle ear of the middle canal, and then treated antibiotically and treated indiscriminately, not treated very specifically. And then the symptoms go away, and 3 months later they come back again, and then it's treated again, and this goes on 2 or 3 times a year, let alone talking about the other insults of vaccinations and poor diet and a whole host of disturbances that start to block the core health of that child. And lo and behold, we get to 6 years old, 7 years old, and now the child is almost in a chronic pattern by then. And I have seen children come in to see me younger than in adolescent age, and they've already been on 30, 40 rounds of antibiotics since they were born, not even talking about the antibiotics that are in our foods and the other invasive elements, the environmental elements that come in, from the hormones to the pesticides to all of the factors that will toxify that pattern and create these insults. What energy medicine can do is it can identify these patterns through the energy field and determine where a person is still holding that burden. In my next video, I'm going to specifically describe how the overuse and abuse of antibiotics actually push the pathogens, whether they be bacterial or viral. And this is a huge problem today, that many children are getting treated for bacterial infections through antibiotics that aren't really bacterial. They're fungal, or they're viral, or they're parasitic in nature, or it's just chronic inflammation due to everything we just said and a host of other issues. And we use antibiotics as the knee-jerk reaction to just suppress symptoms. The worst thing you can do for your child, which will come back for them to meet that crisis in the moment that you repress, and I'm not saying you repress it consciously because that's your intent. Medicine is a suppressive approach to working with symptoms. I was going to say healthcare, but it's not healthcare. The more we repress our children's immune response in the developmental stages, the more disturbances that child will hold on to and never really clarify. And the more disturbances the child holds on to and never really clarifies, the greater the crisis and potential of crisis that they will face later on in life. And what we're seeing now is we're seeing a generation where this suppressive therapy has been going on for the last 60 years. So not only are our children carrying the burdens that they're born with, they're carrying the burdens that we've been passed on to them through a family, through a society, through a culture that has been using suppressive therapy as a means of healing. And you cannot heal simply through treatment alone. Treatment is to help an individual get out of the crisis. We need treatment, especially when there's crisis. And what we need more than treatment is to understand the underlying factors that relate to crisis, so that we can go back through an energetic lens, through a clinical nutritional lens, through an understanding of the development of a human being psychologically, emotionally, and even spiritually. This is the new medicine. This is the new medicine. In 2013, we are just breaking through. We think we're advanced. We are not advanced. We might be advanced from where we've come from, but compared to where we're going, we've got a ways to go. So this is Dr. Lenny Izzo, getting to the point with children's health. Join us at our conference call tomorrow night. It will be at 8:30. If you like the information, go to santavita.com. Look under my picture on the website. Get the information to the conference call. I'll speak more specifically on these issues tomorrow night. And as far as I'm concerned, there's no redundancy. I could give you the same talk in another 15 minutes, and it still will need to sink in for you to hear how this really works. There's a huge gap to fill. When we are simply ignoring that gap, we are hindering the development of our leadership going forward. My vision is a world of children that can grow up and access who they really are. And the core of who they are, I do believe, is a soul's imprint. There's a deeper imprint that every child comes in with to some degree and says, I need to heal the issues of the past, find out who I am, what I'm here to do, and then help this world go forward. It's not to repeat where we've come from. So medicine is part of that. Medicine is evolving. Healing is evolving outside the box. Our educational system is another video, is not evolving outside the box. And individuals primarily, what's leading this revolution, and it is a revolution because all revolution leads to evolution. What's leading it is not what's happening inside the box. It's the thinking and the practical application and the practical moving forward and breaking through personal internal barriers as a professional or as a non-professional to really access the information that resonates, and then looking to integrate it in a very practical and effective and safe and healing environment. And that's what we do at Santa Vita. We will not take care of all your children's needs. However, we will understand their basic core needs from a natural point of view and look to help your child heal what's going on so that they can transform that condition. They can be empowered in themselves, which means immune system empowerment, healthy brain function, healthy digestive function, healthy development biologically, psychically, emotionally, and spiritually. So this is Dr. Lenny Izzo saying goodbye for now. See you next time. Bless you on your healing journey.